Good evening, everyone.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Chat. With this evening, I have my co-host Nick Muley from Chicago, and on my left is I have Robert from Queensland, and above me is we have a very special guest from Paracult, and he is
Yeah.
from. So yeah, welcome everybody. Alrighty, Nick.
Sorry, I had to
So
move,
that you
sorry, I
go
had to move
first.
things around for starters, because that's the other weird thing too. When you have these intros, it moves all the windows around, so that's why I moved you guys on the top.
Get by the way. Gosh, it's fun. So, for people that don't know Nick, do you want to tell people what got you into the paranormal field and things like that?
Well, obviously, when it comes to what got me into the paranormal, it was quite an interesting way because unlike a lot of other people who have gotten into it because they had an experience when they were younger, it was mainly curiosity that brought me into it, and it was through a lot of the old paranormal shows on the Travel Channel. Not the kind of things they have nowadays, but it all started honestly with that. Oh, sorry, my cat decided is she's decided to join in on the show too. Anyway, I can ask her next what got her into it.
Well,
but anyway,
tickling mice
but
around.
anyways, but anyways, yeah, it all started with the paranormal show Most Haunted when it used to be kind of the dominant paranormal show, and at that time I was only 12 years old, but it was great. As soon as I started watching, it was like I was hooked on it. Basically, I really wanted to know what it was like. Really wanted to know what the paranormal was like, and that kind of helped me of where I am today. Gone to a lot of different haunted locations, obviously here in the states. And there's still a lot more out there that I'm trying to investigate to this day.
Oh, awesome. Nick, same question. What would be your top location that you haven't been to that you'd like to go to?
As far as my top location, see, like I said, there's definitely a lot of them out there. But I would say if I had to choose one location, it would have to be Gettysburg. I have not been to Gettysburg yet, and that is a location I've been trying to get out to for years. So, and I've been doing this now for almost 20 years, and I still haven't gone to Gettysburg, but it's been on my list for quite a long time now.
Awesome. Robert, same question. What got you into the paranormal field?
Seeing a ghost at 4 years old, and then doing research when I was growing up on them. Like I found a website that had text stories of
Mhm.
supposedly true stories. Some of them you
Mhm.
could believe. Some were just so far out that you wouldn't believe them if they fell on you. But yeah, I just been interested in it for since age 4 and 51 now, so that's a long time back.
Interesting. Awesome. Jaden, same question. What got you into the paranormal field?
I'm one of those guys that had a personal experience. um, but in all fairness, though, my personal experience, like, rain. I'll start from the beginning. So when I was about same age as you, Robert, 4 years old, I had my first experience. I was actually chatting to this little boy at like 3 o'clock in the morning on my loft bed, like every night for 2 weeks straight. And my mum suddenly comes in. She's like, "Who are you talking to?" I told her who I was talking to, and these types of experiences kept happening throughout my entire childhood. I just kept having experiences nonstop, and the weird thing is, my parents at the time when they were together were both Christians, and they didn't really dabble in the paranormal as much. And yeah, like nothing really made me gravitate toward that side of life. I'd always been like a very gothic, very into the darker side of life type of person. No outside influences got me to be like that. And then as I progressed through my adolescence, I had more and more and more experiences that became a bit more full on than just seeing an apparition and chatting to them. It became much more than that. And I started looking into shows like Taunted and Ghost Hunters, and I was absolutely in complete awe of how awesome that was, that lifestyle. And I grew up, and I'm like, I want to be that. I want to do that when I get older. Lo and behold, I'm 27 years old, and I've been doing this for almost like 15 years now. It sounds weird when you put the math together,
Yeah.
but I've been going out to abandoned places alone and doing all this sort of shit for a very, very long time. And now I film it on YouTube, and yeah, so that's really what got me into the paranormal, was just being a really, really weird dude and liking that sort of shit. So
Okay, mate.
yeah.
Good. No, awesome. So
Well, I gotta
yeah,
say, oh, go ahead, Nikki. Go ahead.
no, you can go. It's all good.
No, I
Go
just
on.
wanted to just make a quick comment for Jaden. I mean, that's interesting of how, you got into it, and how long you've been into it as well. Because I'm actually I'm just a few years older than you are. I'm 31 years old. So the way how things have progressed, pretty much around almost that same age, it's quite interesting. Even though it wasn't an experience that I had that brought it in, I like the fact that he had you followed a similar pathway to very much what I've done over the years.
Yeah, I think there's, as always, Hollywood and all these types of things can really build a person. From the music you listen to the stuff that you watch, really builds your own personality. And I think before I even started watching those types of shows when I was younger, I already was really into that sort of stuff by reading books at the library and doing as much research as I could as possible. And then that's when the show started happening. I'm like, oh shit, this is an actual thing that people can actually do. That's when the
Right.
whole ghost hunting thing became all about. And I'm like, all right, bet I'll look into that. And now it's just a completely different lifestyle, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. Yeah. Reason why I got into the paranormal field is personal experience. So I lost a loved one at a really young age, and I was the last person to see this person live, and I was trying to actually wake him up. I was 3. And then since then, I've always felt him around, and I just wanted to have that reason, why are you there? For a few years, I stopped. Like, I didn't really believe in the paranormal, but then I kept having the same experiences. Like, I'd see people walking around that weren't there. And then I had another paranormal experience, and then I reached out to another team over here in Australia, which is Night Watch Paranormal Australia. And then I was looking to create a team, and then I founded Paranormal Perth. So yeah, that's my little reason why I got into it, and also watching shows and also watching Paracult, Things Network, and yeah, other teams around Australia really got me into it. So yeah. Nick, any questions they want to ask myself, Robert, or Jaden?
There was a question I was actually going to ask. It just left my head, but I know it'll come back eventually. I promise.
No. What's your okay? Well, yeah, you go.
It's actually not again. It's not a question, but with what you just said, because I also wanted to say something about this, because this just happened to me a few days ago. It's not necessarily an experience, but it was from a family member who was telling me this. But like you were just explaining, the fact that you lost someone, at a young age, and that at the same time it brought you curiosity of, of the paranormal. Well, I can certainly share that in a very similar way. I'm not going to give too many details of, because obviously this is involving my family, but I had a cousin of mine who sadly he passed away last year. He died of suicide. He was only 25 years old, and yeah, it was unexpected. He had depression, so none of us expected that at all. And obviously, like any family, we went to his funeral, paid our respects. And then just a few days ago, if you guys had seen, I was just recently at a wedding, and before we even had our dinner, one of those family members of mine came up to me. It was actually this cousin of mine, Dad, who came up, and he said to me that they've had some activity go on in their house. They said that there were 2 different things that, excuse me, in particular, that was going on. He came up to me and he told me that on one occasion they heard the water faucet running, and when they went upstairs to go investigate, see what was going on, they saw the faucet was entirely running. So there was no way like any type of change in temperature or anything like that could have just turned it all the way on, basically. And they couldn't explain that at all. But the other one, and this was the other experience they had, this was the one that really got me, was they also heard a noise in their basement, a few days later. And they weren't sure what the noise was, but when they went downstairs to go see what this noise, whatever the noise was, they found a picture on the ground that was flipped upside down. When they flipped the picture over, it was a picture of my cousin when he was a baby. So it's almost like it was incredible. I mean, I think after when they told me that story, I knew at that point it had to be him. That he was definitely visiting. And I think because of that, I think, his parents now are kind of felt a little bit more closure now, the fact that he's been visiting. So it's, so hearing something like that, like what you just said, Nikki, it just brought back to what I was just told a couple days ago of what happened to them.
Thank you for sharing, Nick. I know that was hard, so.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You can't really put that down to coincidence, man. Like, all things happen for a reason, and that just series of events is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I have told him when he told me all this. I mean, I of course said to him, you're not the first person who has come up to me who's told me about, when it comes, whether it's my family or someone else's, where they lost a relative of theirs at a young age and they start having all this activity. But interestingly, it's yes, it's still a very hard ordeal, but it's got them even more fascinated by the paranormal in this case. So a lot of times they often turn to me, for questions. You can kind of say in a way, it's almost like I've kind of become kind of like I guess you can kind of say it's kind of like a spiritual advisor, almost like a paranormal minister, if you will, because they're the ones who come up, and tell me this is what's going on, very almost no differently than like when you go to confession.
Yeah. Very touching. What else?
So sorry, I'm still also sharing this out too while we're running.
No, you're fine. It's all good, Nick. What for people that have just joined the paranormal field, and this is for everybody, what would be the one thing that you would recommend don't doing?
Everything that I do.
Oh, Lord. Nick, same question.
I would say two things in particular. Don't do this to try to get, be famous like some investigators are trying to do. And also, like, especially if there's a negative entity, don't provoke either.
Robert, same question.
As Nick said, don't do it for the fame, don't do it for the money, don't do it for all the likes that you'd possibly get. So this fame thing, and protect yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Definitely protect yourself.
Yeah, and always be respectful is a big thing for, I think, all four of us. Treat them how you would like to be treated. So.
And one other thing too is I almost forgot. Never be never show disrespect when you're at these locations.
I think that's number one, because you're not only like having to disrespect the spirits that could also be listening in on you, and you don't know what their next move is, man. You can't see that shit, So for that, and also the history of places too. It's always good to be mindful of the history that took place in the places you go to, because they're usually associated with trauma. So it's always a good thing to have that respect, for sure. Totally agree.
Yeah, no breaking in.
Don't break in.
We don't.
Yeah, Nikki. Don't break into places, Nikki.
Never done.
Yeah, as I would say, if I ever did anything like that, I'm not going to participate and say that. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations for some of that kind of stuff. Oh, is that a confession?
No comment. No.
Imagine rocking up to church, you're doing a confession. He's like, "Oh, how can I help my son?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I broke into an abandoned building with a K2 meter and a spirit box, and I was looking for spirits. Is that a bad thing? Will God forgive me for that?" And he's like, "I don't know, bro." He gave the wrong
Well, you know what? There's a little funny story about this. This is not the same person I talked about on the last show, but I did have another friend of mine who I don't associate with him anymore because he's been making quite the bad decisions now. But he asked me about like 2 years ago. He knew all too well that I'm an investigator, and he told me about this location that he wanted me to go investigate with. And the idea was we were going to go investigate, and then he was going to come back in my house and watch horror movies because it was close to Halloween. And so I was like, okay, what is this place? He was like, oh, it's like this abandoned building of some sort that's near. We have a town nearby that's called Niles. It's about 10 minutes away from here. And I was like, all right. And I was like, well, who do we ask? Like, is there anybody we can contact to get into this building? Because obviously, just like anybody else, first thing I want to do is contact, get permission to go into these places and not trespass. Well, he says to me, "Oh no, there's no one to answer. We're just gonna sneak into the building." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna break in." And then when I decided, he sent me the address. This is where things get even crazier. The building when he sent me the address, the building that he wanted to go in. I mean, it was abandoned. That's true, but it was really boarded up. But that's the craziest part about this whole thing. It was just right across the street from the police station.
Oh my god!
I was like, seriously, like, are you nuts? I was like, and I even said to him, because sometimes people don't seem to realize that even though these places are abandoned, they're not necessarily completely abandoned. Even if somebody doesn't own it, it's owned by the state then. So it still means that someone owns it. But if that's not enough, in this day and age, a lot of these abandoned locations too usually have security cameras or alarm trips. So I even told him that at one point, and I wasn't expecting this. I was like, you do realize that they usually have a lot of security systems in these places nowadays. He's like, yeah, there's a camera that points inside. I'm like, well, I've been there, and he said he's been there before. It's like, well, I'm sure that you've probably been caught on camera. Well, here's even something more crazier. He's like, well, I had knocked it down and destroyed it, so nobody can see me. I was like, you gotta be kidding. Not only have you revealed to me that you have broken and entered your trespass, you've also destroyed part of basically city or law property. So you're in much bigger trouble now. So I was like, nope, not doing this.
What would you be more scared of, though? What would you be more scared of? Security cameras that are watching your every move at abandoned location, or junkies that are at the abandoned location hiding out?
That's another thing too. That is true. Even if there's no
afraid of the living.
I probably would be too, because I've heard of horror stories a lot of times where people go to these locations and there's like homeless people or junkies living, and they're not expecting anyone. So you never know if they're armed, if they got some kind of weapon on them. That's probably,
you could be going there and be like, if there's any spirits here, please, if you want to throw something, please do throw it towards me. If you can, I'll try and catch it. Then you have all these heroin addicts doing lawn darts with needles at you.
Hey, what's going on, Jill?
Hey, Jill, how you doing? Thank you for joining us, Jill. Appreciate it. Thanks, love.
It's definitely a scary thought, though. It's definitely a scary thought when it comes in. That's why. Oh, go ahead, Jane. Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go, man. It's all sweet.
That's why whenever I go to these locations, I think we've all done the same thing. Is like when we go, it's not only just for the permission, but to also know that there's somebody, like watching, making sure no one else tries to get in, kind of for our safety. That's a very important thing.
So please don't break into buildings. Yeah. So, Nick, what's the most funniest thing that's happened to you on investigation?
There's a couple of them, but I think probably my favorite one, and this was something we debunked very quickly. We investigated what was called the the Rossville Opera House, which was out in the town of Rossville. That was about it was about 2.5. It's about 2.5 hours south of where I live. Unfortunately, I don't know what's happened with the building now because sadly the owner of the Opera House who opened it up for investigations passed away back in 2016. Um, I don't know if he had he was older. I think he was. I don't know if he had cancer or something like that. But yeah, sadly we lost him a number of years ago. But over a decade ago. Now, here's the thing. I'll just tell real quick about the Opera House. It definitely was a very active location, and although it was an opera house back in the early 20th century, it also was a place where the Freemasons met too. So it was kind of a combination of both an opera house and a Freemason or Masonic lodge. But I happened to I was in one of the other rooms. Now this was one of the rooms where the lights were on, and I don't remember. Well, I don't know exactly what I was doing, but I still remember. It's kind of hard to say. But after we decided to take a break, the team that I was with, the guy who was running it, he literally comes running back into the room at one point. He's like, "Guys, you're not going to believe what I just can't." There, I got this shadow figure, like this unbelievable figure on this photograph, and he's wearing a cowboy hat. He's holding a gun. He's like a gunslinger. And I look over to the picture, and I literally say, "That's me." That's me standing. I even said to him, "You can't possibly expect me to believe this. That's literally me standing there. That's my shadow." Because first off, I was wearing no cowboy hat. I was wearing my hat very much like this way, and the supposed gun in the figure's hand. Hang on one second. Yeah, the supposed gun in the figure's hand. That was me holding my phone. So I was able to do that real quick.
Just imagine a standoff like that, the shadow figure like, "Woo, wah, wah, wah."
Well, you got a shadow figure. It's not the right one that you're looking for, though.
What about you, Robert? Same question. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you?
Well, I was actually doing an investigation, but it was online, and it was with Russ and Sandy Wells. They had a show that they did, I think, about 10 years back now. They were at the Seattle cemetery where Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee are buried. But because it was nighttime, it was all locked up, and they aren't the type to break in either. So they were just doing an investigation on the outside of it. And I was in the chat room of the live that they were doing, and I was picking up stuff, and they didn't have it on video. They were just doing it over the phone, I think it was, and I was hearing things beside them. And like I said to Russ, on your left, I typed that in, and a few minutes later, the guy that was actually hosting the show said, "Oh, Russ, Robert says to your left," and he'd only just about 30 seconds after I had written that in said that I hear something to the left, and then a few minutes later on, I've added a few more things in, and I was getting them right as well. And when it came to them seeing lights rising from the tombstones, I said to them, "Wait a few seconds, it's going to rise again." And sure enough, it rose again. And Ross said, "Okay, I think that's it. Let's get out of here." So I was telling you what was going to happen.
Oh, love it. Jaden, same question. What's the funniest thing that's happened to you on investigation?
The funniest thing. This is actually quite memorable, and I actually got it on camera too. So we were filming at one of the most notable abandoned asylums in Australia. It's called Arrowdale Asylum. If you haven't heard of it, definitely look it up. We were there just to investigate. We weren't planning on doing the YouTube channel that night. We were just filming to see what we got. and we had a parabolic. For those of you who don't know what a parabolic is, it increases sound quite a fair bit. And about an hour and a half before the investigation, we all decided to go to Mickey D's, have a few burgers, chill out and whatnot. Don't know why, but we all had the really bad stomach growls and we all had to take a shit. And we were on this investigation for 6 hours. And then every single time, this was a running joke for 6 hours straight. Someone would be like, "Oh, can you hear that? Turn the parabolic on." And so someone would turn the parabolic on, and then someone would be like that every single time. And for 6 hours straight, not one person said that. Not one person thought to be like, "Okay, you're gonna fart again." I guarantee it. Nah. The whole 6 hours, because you just never know. And because we were all on edge, because this place has some pretty heavy energy, we were like getting real nervous, which I don't know about you guys, but when I'm nervous, my bowels just loosen up just a tad bit more than usual. And so like everyone starts farting a lot more. And we heard like a full stomach growl, and then we did a spirit box session in like the most haunted place in this entire asylum. And then we're like, "Oh, is anybody out there? Does anyone want to have a chat to us? We're just wanting to get your story, hear from you." And then my cameraman Bally is just like, "Did you hear that?" He's like, "It sounded like a growl." And he's like, "Oh, what did it sound like?" And he's just like, "It sounded like that." And the spirit box, I shit you not, we heard a laugh come through, like a ha 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 through the spirit box. We were having, it was the best time. It was so funny. And then the guide that we had that night was just like, "You guys are fucking mental."
Joe said Jeremy is warned never to go ghost hunting after eating Mexican food. I wonder why.
Oh, I can't top that one.
All have something like this in your arsenal. Hey, first one.
Okay.
We have this sage spray now, so every time someone lets rip, we just have to spray them a little bit.
Oh, that's funny.
That's funny as hell.
Oh. Yeah, that's.
So, what about you, Nikki?
Oh, I've had a few. Doing investigations not really easy. My butt is right in view of the camera. What else? I've walked into trees and thinking it's a spirit. Same thing with Jaden. Let one rip, and then someone's like, "Oh, does it smell a bit weird here?" And we're just like, "Yep."
Can you smell it? It smells like rotten decay.
What's this way?
Do you smell sulfur?
Oh, God.
There's some sort of entity here, man. I think it's demonic. Yeah, it smells demonic.
It's the ghost of what you just ate. Yes.
Get into the bottom of paranormal.
The actual bottom.
That's our little motto. Every time we've investigated with the afterlife party or myself, someone's butt is in shot. So paranormal. And majority of the time it's myself or someone else.
Reminds me of Eileen's story. Something like that happened. They were all blaming it on God. I think I know that story, but Eileen can tell it better than I could. Just thinking of another experience, and not to bring the show up. I mean, because it sucks now what it used to be. I mean, I used to be I think a lot of us were. I know I used to be a big fan of Ghost Adventures. Not anymore though, because of just the way how Zach has gone downhill. But one of the last episodes I actually watched, and they were trying to be serious about it. But it was funny as hell. I guess they were investigating like some type of like one of the Halloween haunted house walkthroughs. And they're doing a ghost spot session. I don't remember which episode this was. It was several years ago. as they're investigating, one of the scary animatronics is like standing in the middle of the camera, like is like facing like to the right. They're like, "Jeez!" And they actually thought they're like, "Did you touch him?" He's like, "Looks like he was moving." So they started doing these ghost box sessions on the animatronic because they thought it was like literally alive. It was it's funny as hell. I wish I could remember what episode that was. Oh, we got a question here. Also from Jill about prankster ghosts. Have any of you experienced a very funny prankster type spirit, and what happened?
100%. Yeah. So I was at this place that had never been investigated or filmed at before, and I was filming it for my YouTube channel. It's called the Demon's Courthouse, and we got told that there was a really dark entity there, and no one wanted to go into this place. So us being us, we're like, hell yeah, that sounds like something that we would do, because we're all about like what spirits are capable of doing. And we're just like, yeah, nah, fuck it. If there's a demon there, we'll sort it out. Don't worry. We're not going to get rid of it. We're just going to have fun with it. Like, we don't provoke. We just sort of see what they can do. So we went there, and every single part of the investigation just felt like we were getting screwed with completely. And it got to the point where it was actually getting us really annoyed. You know, this energy that was surrounding us started to really influence our behavior in such a strange way, where we were being very passive towards each other as a team, which is something that we never are like. You know, we're very bubbly, outgoing people, but we kept on hearing noises left, right, and center. We were, you know, things were happening here. We'd be directed in that location, and then something would happen as soon as we get there, and we're walking around like headless chooks, mate. You know, and that night, I think we did more walking than we had ever done in our entire life in just one small location. And we came back to the owner and we were like, yeah, we think that not only is there a dark entity here, but they're more of a trickster type prankster person, because every name that we got was the same one, and it was this female, but we knew for a fact it wasn't. So this thing was like playing on the emotions of being a passed away person, a feminine passed away person that was saying, I miss my family, I want to see my children, blah, 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 doing this, doing that. And we didn't believe it for 1 second. You know, we were just like, this thing is really manipulating us into try and opening ourselves up more for us to let it come in, if that makes sense. So that would be an experience that I would say is the closest thing I've had to a prankster type of spirit.
What about you, Dan?
Trying to think of like any particular. I've never really had kind of a prankster type of spirit, but I guess you can kind of say more of a trickster, I think, than a prankster. We investigated this bar. It was kind of a bar and restaurant out in, I think it was out in Antioch, and this was probably about I know it was right before. No, it was 2019, so I know it was right before COVID hit, and the investigation. I mean, it was. I don't really do now. For starters, I don't really do very many of the public investigations unless like they're like newcomers that want to learn this kind of stuff. But I was also helping out with the tour, so in a way, there was kind of a good deal for me to be part of this. But we had a lot of things happen in this restaurant. But just as we were about to actually end things, you know, we were already calling it a night. I was putting a lot of the equipment away, and I noticed that I had one of those type of flashlights that you attach to your hat. You know what I'm talking about? Those type of light, the hat lights. And I noticed that for whatever reason, the back part of the light was missing, because just like what I always do, and I know a lot of investigators do this, is before and after an investigation. I always have the batteries out. You know, like when the stuff is not being used, because I've always learned you don't want to leave batteries in because the acid could leak, and the flashlight is no exception. So after I took the batteries out and I was putting everything away, the back piece of this flashlight was missing, and you know, at first I thought maybe I dropped it by accident. I looked around, I couldn't find it. I checked with other people, like maybe if they accidentally stepped on it, it could have got stuck to their shoe. And they could. I tried even using a flashlight, even though there were lights on at this point. I had no idea where this piece went. It was just gone. Like no trace of it could ever be found. And unfortunately, I was forced to leave without it because I had no other clue where it could have gone. I checked the rest of the toolbox just to make sure if it didn't fall into the toolbox. Couldn't find that there either. So again, I just gave up, and I was probably just going to have to buy a new one. Well, as I got home, the funny thing was I never actually finished unpacking all the batteries because the bar and restaurant was supposed to close. So I think they just wanted everybody out. So when I got home, I was able to finish up getting the batteries out, and after I finished up after I finished everything, because I was sitting on the ground when I was doing this, I stood up and I heard a noise, and I turned around, and that very piece that I was looking for was right there on the ground, like staring right back. And I know for a fact, the other thing I forgot to mention, I checked my pockets, wasn't there either. It's just like it appeared out of thin air. I had no idea how it could have got there, but something tells me that it's probably the closest I think I've ever had to like having something follow me home. Not necessarily an attachment, but something follow me home to return what I lost. So that was, I think it was kind of more of a trick than an actual prank.
Yeah,
So how about you, Robert?
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was gonna ask Robert. How about you, Robert?
I think it wasn't really a prank, so it was more like a trick like yours. But when we were living in Tullamore, New South Wales, which is basically in the middle of nowhere.
It's in Australia, mate. It's all good.
Very, very small town. You could walk one end to the other in about 5 minutes. In this little house that we were renting, it was a miner's shack. It was straight through shot from the very front to the back, and you could see the backyard through the front door. We would hear voices. We'd hear them at the front. We'd go to the front, look for whoever it was that was talking. Couldn't find anyone, and then we'd hear people at the back and do the same thing. So we'd be constantly walking back and forth, trying to figure out where these people are, and we couldn't find them. So, yeah. And apparently there was an elderly woman before we'd moved into there that died there. Well, not died there, but she died in a hospital, but still her essence would have been in that area. And there were a couple of shadow figures that we saw in that place as well, but never felt threatened by them. So
That's really interesting. How about you, Nick?
So with me, I really haven't had tricksters. I've had like ones that try to kind of like play games, like moving equipment around I swear I've put in locations, or I've done like a few stupid things myself, like walking into trees and stuff like that. So mostly I'm the one that's a bit of a prankster. Like the other day we did a cemetery and there's like this giant vine, and I didn't realize a vine actually got wrapped around my foot, and I'm like going, cut it down, like trying to, yeah, it was pretty embarrassing, but yeah, nothing too crazy yet, but never know. What else?
But it's all, you always have, every now and then, yeah, you definitely have your stories of prankster goes, that's for sure.
Yeah. Nick, have you been to Waverly Hills yet?
Definitely. I've been there twice. And this goes back to like the first question you had, like how I got into the paranormal. Waverly Hills was actually my very first location I ever investigated full time. And at that time, excuse me, at that time, I was probably also one of the youngest investigators to have investigated Waverly full time, because back then I was only 17 years old. And it was kind of funny. I still remember the week after the school year began, my senior year of high school. So, what better way to start the school year off than investigate one of the most famous haunted locations, not just in the United States, but worldwide? And that place absolutely does not disappoint. I mean, when I went there, it almost felt like as if the stage was set for me. It was almost as if these entities at Waverly Hills, it's like I think they knew I wanted to have some type of real paranormal experience because I was at that point that I believed in a lot of it, I studied a lot of it, but I still hadn't really had a true paranormal experience. Like I even said, I want to have some type of experience where I could actually see a full body apparition for me to become a believer. And it was, you can kind of very well say it was like my wish was granted because there was so much activity going on that night. And I still can, even though it was my like debut, if you will, that really got me where I am today, I still consider that one of my best investigations. And what's really cool is that even though this was back in 2010, long before we could, even though Facebook existed then, long before we could use Facebook Live and record a lot of this stuff, I was fortunate enough, though, that I had an old-fashioned video camera that I was able to film the entire investigation. Now, it was one of those old-fashioned, when I say old-fashioned ones, it's like one of those from the late 80s, early 90s. So, you put the little cassette tape in and you film it that way. But what was great about this camera, however, though, was that it did have night vision. So I was able to film perfectly in the dark. But the craziest thing about this tape, I've actually been calling it the Lost Paranormal tape because when we got back home a few days later, we only got to see a small percentage of that video. To this day, we still haven't seen that full tape. And I mean, I know we do have it. We still have the tape. It's not necessarily like truly lost. It's just that because again, this was filmed off an old camera recorder. People don't really use those anymore. So trying to transfer it and digitize it is very difficult, especially now. So I've already promised myself that if I did, whether I captured something extraordinary at Waverly Hills, or even if I didn't, I'm hoping that hopefully one day I can recover that footage, find out what's on it, and whatever the case is, I'm actually hoping to make a documentary out of it because I don't know if there's ever been a paranormal documentary made detailing someone who started doing investigations like this at a young age. In this case, at 17 years old.
Yeah. What is the one food that you recommend not eating before investigation?
McDonald's.
Curry or coffee. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah. Nick?
Might have to come back to me for that one.
I can't really say anything really. The ones I've been on, I've usually been by myself, so it didn't really matter. So just nothing spicy, I guess. Nothing that would upset the stomach. Nick, I'm about to send you something.
Yeah. Honestly, the only place I could think of is probably there's I'm just gonna have to choose a random one, and it's probably gonna have to be Taco Bell.
I was actually just about to say there's a restaurant similar to Taco Bell down here called Guzman y Gomez. I don't know if that's in this. Yeah, so GYG. And bro, if you eat GYG before any investigation, you are screwed.
Oh God,
you are so bad.
Oh.
Joe is asking, Halloween is close. Are you all ready for it? And what are your plans for it?
Hell yeah, bro. 100%. Halloween is my Christmas, dude. It's so good. I often, every year, I volunteer at my friend's house who hosts a haunted house. His entire front yard and his house itself, we all dress up, like me and my mates, we all get together, dress up. I go as this like mentally ill possessed psych patient every single year, but it just gets better and better. Like 4 straight jackets, scary mask, the works, like fake blood everywhere, and we just scare the crap out of kids. And it's the best experience in the world. I don't know why, but we're also doing it to raise money for this foundation called the Superhero Foundation. It raises money for kids that have leukemia and other types of illnesses and whatnot. So yeah, it's very, very fun to do. Very, very fun and very rewarding as well. Last year, I think we raised like $13,000, and I think this year it's been heavily advertised, so it's going to be a lot more bigger.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Love that.
That's really, that's amazing. That really is.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's great. It's good fun, and it's not just the scaring kids part that's fun. I think it's just the fact that, this year I'm going as an actual YouTuber, and that's also been advertised as well. And we are starting to get more gradually popular as time goes by, like a lot more bigger than what I ever anticipated that we'd ever get to, just in the short amount of time that we've been doing YouTube. So my mate who's been hosting it has been telling all of his mates, like, oh, I actually got a real life ghost hunter coming down to dress up and scare the crap out of people. And yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. Really good for networking. But well, I think I'm going to donate like $100 of my own money to the charity and see if I can get some of my fan base to do the same thing for these guys, because it's definitely a step in the right direction for a lot of people, I think.
Jill's just asking if you have any flyers she could share them out.
At the moment, I officially don't. I'm not in control of the marketing of it, and I think that it's under wraps at the moment because there's still some planning ahead. But once we do have that confirmation where we can be more public with it, I'll be putting it up on my own Facebook page on Paracult, and that way people can really choose to attend these events.
Awesome.
We actually have something similar like that on over here in the States. I mean, it's not. I know some haunted houses also do the same thing. I probably have talked about it before. You guys have probably. I know you guys don't have them out there, but we have Spirit Halloween over here, which it's that classic Halloween store. And for 3 years, I worked there, which definitely a great store to work at. I mean, I'm hoping maybe sometime soon they'll eventually spread internationally. They are in Canada now. It's not just here in the United States, but for now, it's just in the U.S. and Canada. But there are requests of eventually trying to get it overseas. So the idea of what Spirit Halloween, it's more than just like selling costumes, celebrating Halloween itself. But it's the same exact thing. We raise a lot of money for, again, kids who have cancer, leukemia. So we do almost the exact same thing. And they've raised quite a couple thousand, probably almost just as much as that, about $13,000.
That's amazing.
And,
that's really
awesome. So we're doing the same exact thing. I mean, even though I haven't worked there for a couple years now, because the last time I worked there was back in 2019. But from what I've heard, I mean, the money that they've made for these for the donations, if you will, it's just phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah, of course. That's awesome.
Yep, Jill, I will put Paracult link at the bottom of the page so you can follow his page. And
yeah, she was asking.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anytime.
I can do that if you want. I can go into it.
Go for it, Jaden. Thank you.
That's all right.
So for my property. Yeah, it's great to start seeing like Halloween or anything else like this. It's fantastic. See, and I don't know if you guys had recently got word about this. I did a couple weeks ago. Although Spirit Halloween is only open, from August to very early November, they're now starting a new chain that they're going to give it a shot later this year because people, I don't know if it's because of requests or if it's just a way to try to continue business with it. They're now going to open up a Christmas section in this case, which is obviously it's going to be called Spirit Christmas. So it's going to be from Halloween to Christmas, and they're going to still continue on with these donations and to raise all this money, for the cancer victims.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Josh. Yeah, real quick, if you guys didn't know, Josh I hope you're doing well down in Florida, because I'm sure you guys have heard about the
Yeah.
two.
Oh yeah, man. That
Mhm.
was it. Was it? What's the hurricanes that Milton? Was it Milton? I could be wrong.
Hurricanes Helene and Milton.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've been watching closely on that. That's crazy,
Yeah.
man. I hope you're staying safe, dude.
Yeah, it's
Right.
we were watching it live when Milton went through Florida, and there, unfortunately for us, there's already talks that there might be two other tropical disturbances. I mean,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
unclear right now. They're not hurricanes yet, but they're being investigated. It almost sounded like there could even be possibly a third hurricane that could potentially strike Florida. But I don't want to, of course, trigger panic, obviously. But
Yeah,
the
please
percentage
don't.
the percentage I heard has dropped dramatically. I mean, I think it was like 40 to 60% yesterday, but now it's dropped down to like 30%. So hopefully it's kind of slowly but surely dissipating. The other one the other one that's kind of currently being investigated is off the coast of Central America. So for the most part, all is quiet except for these two systems. But hopefully, because we've already had enough hurricanes for this
Yeah,
year, and
yeah.
it's been a
Yeah.
major disaster. But it's good to know you're surviving, Josh.
Please stay safe and yeah.
I think Queensland here in Australia is getting hit with hurricanes soon this summer as well. Like,
Well, they're expecting about 6 at least
yeah,
up in the Coral Coast, which is
Yeah.
about 1,000 kilometres north of us here. So,
Mhm.
but we will get some of the rain depressions and stuff like that. There was one that actually came through Rockhampton, which is the nearest town to here. And I used to live in that town when this happened, but I was just a baby apparently. So apparently it came right along the river, up along the Fitzroy River, and
Oh.
dissipated near the old bridge in Rockhampton at the moment. So yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Down
and
here in Melbourne, man, the weather's just all four seasons every single day.
seeing that.
You know?
Yeah, it starts out summer, then winter, then spring, then fall, and
Yeah, nah, like I woke up this morning, it was humid and then as soon as I hopped in the shower, got out, it was raining outside. I'm like, Melbourne sucks. It's
Come to WA. No, they're not for the rivalry.
WA is always like quite warm though. I would go to WA.
but it's not humid.
What's what?
The humidity kills you up this way.
Yeah, true. And I'm pale as, dude. I don't even go outside half the time unless I'm going to do an investigation. You know, the only time you'll catch me outside is me waiting for the doors to be opened up, and I'm done from that point.
You know, it's funny, all this talk about different areas, like, you know, where it's like different seasons. That's also a common misconception for one of our other states here, which obviously is the state of Alaska, because most people always think that Alaska is always this year-round winter wonderland. Yeah, they always think it's this winter wonderland. And while that may be the case for like the most northern part of the state close to the Arctic, it's quite warm throughout the rest of Alaska. I've never been there myself, but I know plenty of investigators and also other people who visited the state.
Yeah, man. Like, if I know anything about Alaska, it's when Bob Ross does a painting, it's not always snow. It's and the word Alaska just sounds cold, man. You like look at Alaska, you know, it just sounds like cold as.
Yeah. You need to get your blanket on. Well, now you're actually making me cold.
It's so cool that you got to do. It's so cool that you got to do Waverly Hills Sanatorium, because that's on my bucket list of places that I want to do. Like, it sounds so cool there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Anne and Renata are there right now. They're doing
Well, it should be noted too that about 2 years, interestingly, about 2 years from now, Waverly Hills Sanatorium will turn 100 years old, because it was built in 1926. So it's made it now almost 100 years, and it's still standing to the city. What was that, Robert?
Heritage protected?
It's, as far as I know, I think it is, because when the owners, I forgot their names, but when the owners, Yeah. No,
Wait,
not
like
not
the Sesame Street people?
no, not Denise. No, not Ernie and Denise. I don't. Yeah, for some reason I forgot their names, but they bought Waverly with the intention of keeping it from being torn down. That was the intention of buying it.
I don't know why I said Bert and Ernie.
Why do you think Bert with eyes, Ernie?
And the Axe Murder House, I think, is owned by Elmo and Big Bird.
I'm just gonna go.
Elmo, don't go down.
A is for axe, B is for butcher, C is for kill.
C is for cannibals.
So this is one of my most embarrassing moments on Facebook.
There's one
Actually,
goal,
look-
two goals, 3 goals.
One
Actually-
body, 2 bodies in the backyard.
Yeah, I know.
Great.
Josh, we got a full moon right now going on. It's a harvest moon, so I think we might be having a super moon tonight. So that's what Josh means by that.
Yeah.
Cool, man. That's sick.
But yeah, I mean, I looked them up. It was actually, now I remember, it was Charles and Tina Mattingly. They're the owners who bought Waverly, and that was their intention of buying it because they didn't want it to get torn down. And Charlie's dad used to work at Waverly back in its operating days, so it was almost like trying to keep a family heirloom alive. And you know, because I also went to Waverly 3 years ago. So after the first time I went back in 2010, when I went back in 2021, I can tell you guys this right now: the building has made a lot of changes. Because when I was there in 2010, the building was relatively bad shape. You know, there was a lot of broken ceilings, there was a lot of dust, broken windows. I mean, what was that?
Is that where you got lost?
No, that was the Masonic Temple I got lost. Oh no, that was the Masonic Temple in Kansas I went to. But and this was, and despite its bad shape, like I said, even back then they were already doing the ghost tours investigations. We paid for us to go into this, but there was even there were even staircases that you cannot access, that they were literally broken. So trying to cross through them would have been extremely dangerous. But when I went back 3 years ago in 2021, along with actually Jeremy, because he was the one who kind of helped put this together, it was like not only just a feeling of nostalgia because it had been so long since I've been to Waverly. I couldn't believe how much Charlie has really fixed. The building was like a lot better than what it was all those years ago. It was cleaner. They had new windows put in. The stairways were either replaced or repaired. I got to be honest. I was actually kind of a little bit emotional that they actually put the time in fixing this building up compared to what I saw back in 2010. And Charlie, I mean, I got to give credit for him. A lot of the work that he's done at this building, not just for us as a paranormal, as a paranormal community, but just to restore this entire building. He really has done his part. I mean, I know he's gotten help over the years of getting this building restored, but for the most part, he helped rebuilt this building with the sweat of his 2 hands, and that's a true hero right there for saving such a historic building.
Do you feel like since before the renovations and after the renovations, do you reckon that there was a difference of activity there? You know, like before it got fixed up, there may have been a lot more as opposed to when it's been renovated now, or vice versa.
I think so, because from what I've heard, because we got they're not part of it anymore, but we had some investigators that were actually the ones who were kind of hosting the tours and investigations. Again, their names are Ernie and Denise Pack, but they're no longer involved with Waverly. Yeah, they're no longer involved with Waverly anymore. So, but at the time, they often told us a lot of stories in this case involving Charlie, and they actually said that I think the spirits have grown accustomed to Charlie. They've gotten to know who he was, who he is, that he's taking care of this building. So, as far as activity is concerned, was it different prior before because he bought it back in 2001.
Yeah.
So, as far as the I'm sure it definitely was different prior before he bought it, and even after when he bought it, because obviously it's just like any haunted place you go to, the spirits aren't going to know exactly who you are from the beginning. So activity, like if it was different, that activity would eventually continue on for probably several years. So I definitely could see that it probably could have been a lot different, let's just say 20 years ago.
Yeah, because when you think about it, like there's been places that, like I lived in a haunted house for like 10 years, like one of the most haunted houses in my suburb at the time. And we were there for very, very long time, and it was consistent with activity non-stop all the time. I actually had my scariest experience in this house as opposed to where I go now, which is it should be scary, but it's not as much as that place that I lived at. But when we moved out, there was about 4 different homeowners within the span of 2 years, which we thought was quite odd. And then the place got renovated. And we still have a friend that lives across the road that now knows the current owners. And we're like, so this house that you renovated, my friends used to live at. Did you guys ever experience anything that would be considered paranormal, just in case they weren't really into it? And they said, yeah, we literally treated it as a project house. No one stayed there the night because we knew it was haunted. We wanted to renovate it to treat it like a property that we could eventually rent out. But as soon as it got renovated, hardly any activity happens anymore. It's just a massive shift in energy. And that got me thinking for a long time. I'm like, if that could happen at that location, like at my old house, I wonder how it's like that across the board with other locations.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If they remove the things that the spirits might be attached to when they're renovating, it might just be a way that they're gotten out.
Yeah, maybe. That's definitely a possibility. Or even just the whole, like, we don't really know how spirits see things. They could see it as, from when they were still alive, as opposed to what we see it as, And in that regard, do you reckon that those massive changes ultimately affects their visual perception of a location and orders them to be like, okay, I might move away from this now?
Hello. Yeah. Well, like with the Others, the movie, The Others, they didn't know they were dead, and they kept seeing things as their own stuff, and they'd have to keep shifting stuff back from where the current owners have been moving things to.
That's actually a good reference, man. I forgot about that movie. That was a good movie.
That was a good movie. Yeah,
that was a good movie.
I haven't seen it for several years, but I had seen a long time ago. But that was a great film.
Mm-hmm. It was trippy as actually. Like looking back at it now, I'm like, holy crap, that was it boggles your mind a little bit.
It does, yeah.
I noticed that with as Jaden was just saying, I do notice because we've done Kalamata Hotel, and when we first went there, activity was nuts, like crazy. And then they started renovating, and they started moving stuff around certain rooms, and then the activity stopped. And then when we went back, they decided to put some of the antiques back there, and then activity would start up again. So, yeah, it's pretty insane, that place. But yeah, I definitely reckon that, renovating and stuff and moving stuff around can stir up or get rid of. More questions?
Got here from question from Josh.
Okay.
When selling a haunted house, should you be liable to reveal to the new owners?
Yes.
A lot of time it's just the energy. No, they can figure it out.
Realtors have to say if someone's died there, but they don't have to say that it's haunted.
Yeah.
Usually if someone's died there, it's associated with a haunting at some point. But I don't know, like when we sold our house, we knew it was like haunted as fuck. Part of my French, but I don't think we told the new owners that were moving in. We're like, oh yeah, this place is haunted. You know, my son got attacked in that corner, and my mum got bit in that corner. You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
you know, all that sort of stuff. We're just like, no, it's a lovely home. The views are beautiful. You can see the hills of the next suburb over there. It's got spacious living quarters. You know, I don't think a real estate owner's coming out here and being like, oh yeah, so there was like a pet cemetery at the backyard. It was an ancient burial ground for Aboriginal culture, and apparently it's got some bad shit associated with it, but the view is nice.
You got those multi-million-dollar views, yes.
Yeah.
It's interesting because like over here, it depends. It depends on which state you live in. Like there are some states over here that you're required to tell like new owners like that are about to buy a house that yeah, somebody did die here or something. But there's other ones out here that other states that you don't have to say anything. As far as like where I live in this case for the state of Illinois, I'm not entirely sure if they're required to or not. But honestly, that's got to be something I'm going to have to look up at some point. But so in this case for Illinois, I'm not entirely sure, but it varies from state to state.
When you think about it, if someone's died in the house, you could get it for a lot more cheaper than the asking price.
Yeah,
very much so.
You know, it's not that bad.
If there's skeletons in the walls or something like that.
Dinner and a budget. Let's go.
I'd like to see the faces of some of these people when they renovate these houses, because the ones that are renovating them now have put plastic skeletons in the walls and like
I've seen that.
And like, yeah, you have been scanned by. Surprise.
Josh, you said, I mean, people die in houses all the time, so it doesn't bother me. But it was a genuine.
I think depending on what state you are in. I think in WA you are required maybe to tell them like someone's passed.
I think that's across the board in Australia. Yeah, in Australia, the law is you have to tell someone if someone's died, and that's most houses in Australia. Well, every house surely has someone died in it. You know, it's a weird probability, but it's more than just. I don't know. I would like to know the percentage of how many people die in houses these days. In all honesty, I want to do that research.
Yeah. Well, if you look in this case, I mean, I know it's. I don't want to say too much because I know it's, kind of problem now when you say this stuff on live stream. But when you look at this, if you look at something like what just recently happened a few years ago with something like COVID, imagine how many people died in their homes because of COVID, basically. So that would have sent that to quite a percentage of it. And I just actually decided to look up, because again, I was kind of curious about what it is, if it's required here in Illinois. And it says here, brokers have no legal duty to disclose facts that have no direct or detrimental physical impact on the property. So in other words, Illinois does not require any non-physical defects to be disclosed. That includes death or other stigmatizing factors. So it's not required to disclose a death in the house when selling real estate in Illinois. So I thought it would have been the opposite, but yeah, they don't have. I guess over here you don't have to tell them.
Interesting.
Apparently in Victoria, there's no specific legal requirement. Apparently, disclosing the death of an occupant.
Because every house that I've rented here, being in Victoria, they've always said no one's died in this house. As much as it's like a type thing. Like, I want to come home and just keep investigating, you know what I'm saying? But but every house that I've lived in, they've always said that. So I assumed that down here it was the same thing. You have to disclose it if someone did die. But now they're saying people didn't die in the house.
Yeah, you're right, Josh. States are different.
But to say the least, I have brought shit home from investigations before.
Well, and just obvious. I mean, just like over here, I know you guys are also comprised of states too. So I guess it sounds like to me that kind of both in this case, United States here and Australian states, it's like kind of very similar laws. Depends where you are.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of territories as well, like Northern Territory and the ACT, so in Capital Territory, and I think they have their own rules. I think
Yeah, I do.
they're not considered states; they're considered territories.
Yeah, and we have the same road rules as everyone else in Australia, yet people from other states don't know how to fucking drive. You know?
Yeah,
Like,
That's true over here. That's the same thing over. It's like that over here too.
well, but you like Nick, you drive through red lights because you can.
whoa,
'Cause
hold up.
you go-
Hold up.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
virtually
wait.
you turn on
wait,
right.
Whoa.
Nah, wait, what state are you from, Robert?
Queensland, but I'm talking about it from over there. In the States.
You have no
The
say
worst.
in how people drive. I
Yeah,
am
they're the
sorry.
worst drivers here. I know.
Y'all don't even look going around a roundabout. You know what I mean?
A lot of them don't.
You don't give way.
Well, I can't drive anymore because I've only got one leg. So.
When you come up to a give way sign, Robert, us Melburnians are like, thank you very much. You're just like, nah, fuck you, see you later. Like, where are you getting to in a hurry? You are 2 states away from where you live.
Yeah, Ed lives in Virginia, so I can see where he's coming from with that. And that's the other thing too. A lot of people often associate when it comes to yeah, Josh lives in Florida, so I know about out-of-state drivers. Yeah, a lot of time. Well, and considering where I live, in this case in Chicago, the traffic we have over here is crazy. I mean, I always thought for years that Chicago had the worst traffic here in the country, but I found out that there's even one more city that even surpasses that, and that's Atlanta, Georgia. They have it even worse than we do.
Welcome to the Paranormal podcast, where we talk about road rules and how they can impact our daily life.
Road rage and
I told you we talk about everything.
Yeah.
About know what food to eat, the paranormal, how not to drive, getting lost in the paranormal field, Bert and Ernie, Sesame Street. It's great.
Imagine getting
Atlanta
like
is
a,
really
you know how you
nightmare,
can
it
turn
really
a
is.
teddy bear into a REM pod? Imagine if you got like a Tickle Me Elmo and turned that into like a paranormal device. Every time something touched it, it laughed. Wouldn't that be terrifying?
That gives me an idea. I actually have a lifestyle.
Alexandria and Fairfax, Virginia has it all. Has us all. Wow. I love that.
Does it also go for the same? You throw water on some of them and they just melt.
I don't know if you guys have seen like, all this talk about this case, like with cars and stuff like that. I gotta ask, because I've seen them over here. Have you guys got those new cars yet? Where they're like giant blocks almost. Have you guys gotten those yet?
You mean the Tesla Cybertrucks?
the trucks.
Yeah, those things.
Yeah.
There are a couple here in Australia. I'm not sure where, but I've read about them. Haven't seen them myself.
Keep going.
But Anne Rekovic got her wish. She saw one just yesterday when she was driving over there in the States. So she was squealing that much that she woke up Steve. Steve was in the back.
I just saw one. I saw one earlier this morning when I was going to work.
Yeah.
And they're just the weirdest looking thing. I mean, to me, they look like something out of Minecraft, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They're just so out
Lego
of place.
Dude, I was driving with a few mates and we saw like a Tesla Cybertruck parked on the side. Like, oh my god, that's the new Tesla car. I'm like, that looks like shit.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, but the innovations in it, it's technologically advanced. And I'm like, if it was technologically advanced, it wouldn't even have to be a fucking truck. It'd literally be like a jetpack or something.
Yeah, you know? Really.
It's no wonder the raccoons still think that they're the garbage bin because they look like them.
They really do.
What did I miss?
I've seen
Take
I've
your
seen
trash
the
out on
tax
Wednesdays. The truck
tax
picks up.
of the back of them because they look like what the raccoons normally get into for the garbage.
Yeah, I know.
I don't get it, man. I don't get it. Did you see what Elon Musk bringing out with the what's it called, the Optimus robots?
Oh God, no.
Did you see that? Yeah, Tesla made like a full line of robots that are meant to help people do daily tasks. And I think it's called Optimus. It's terrifying because it reminds me of iRobot. And if you ever played the game Detroit Become Human, it's exactly that. You know what I mean? Like, it's scary, dude. These things wear shoes, like actual people's shoes, and it's terrifying to me.
Oh my God, that is crazy. I honestly, I never even knew anything about that. So, to me, I got more of a feeling of like the thinking to myself, geez, that sounds more like the Terminator, almost like real life Terminator.
It's becoming like Skynet, dude. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's slowly becoming like that. And it's you know what? Hunting ghosts is less scarier than the whole AI situation, in my personal
I
opinion, man.
The technology kind of thing. See, that's the other thing, and this goes like actually when it comes to like in this case investigations. Although I have a lot of the modern equipment, that's another reason why a lot of times I still focus on a lot of the older fashioned.
Yeah.
Old version stuff works better.
Came out this week, exactly right.
You can just imagine someone in the program with Autobots, roll out, and have a whole heap of people being pushed along in wheelchairs.
Oh,
you know,
that's
one other
terrifying.
This is something I should probably suggest. I mean, in this case, you know, like when it comes to old-fashioned equipment, and this is something maybe you should try out yourself, Jaden, because some of us on the network have actually done this, and it's something that a lot of people. It's amazing, also, like when you find certain types of equipment that you could use that previously would never be considered paranormal equipment is you should try using a dog whistle.
I don't have a dog.
Well, no, like, so the dog whistle, like, Jeremy could explain this better than I could, honestly. Like, but the dog whistle, you know, like when you blow those, like, you know, like when you blow in, obviously, only a dog could hear it, but, you know, you can't.
Yeah, the high frequency one. Yeah, no, that'd be interesting. It'd be very interesting.
We've used that a few times on some investigations, and we've gotten some relatively very interesting results because we kind of figured the same thing, that if a dog could hear it and we can't, what are the chances in this case that spirits can most likely have that high frequency sound, like they could hear it on their side? So it's been a really interesting tactic of using it. And even though it kind of has like that, yeah, it's based on frequency. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
because obviously every sound that happens goes out in a wave, right? Like as Ed said, it's a frequency. So imagine if maybe it's a possibility that they could utilize that frequency to gain more energy. It's almost like every time there's a thunderstorm that happens, for some reason it builds up activity at any location. So I wonder if sound is also something that makes sense, because nearly every bit of paranormal equipment utilizes sound, and it can just gain from once it first gets used. That's an interesting theory.
You know those devices that you plug in that are supposed to get rid of mice and cockroaches and all that from fruit.
We've got them at home.
Yeah.
I've been able to hear those when you're not meant to be able to hear them. Like you can actually hear the high pitch.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was annoying me enough to unplug the damn thing. but yeah, if they're not meant to be heard and you can hear them, then yeah, it might work for the ghosts as well.
Imagine getting Mariah Carey to do that whistle tone singing at a location. Do you reckon that
she's still trying to leave her alone? Got another month at least for her.
Here's one piece of advice, like if you decide like you want to use the dog whistle, and I speak this not only for myself, but I even say it for Jeremy. It's a word of advice for anybody that wants to use a dog whistle on investigations. don't ever use it after dark outside. Trust me. You will be sorry. Because we had well, I think some of you guys would probably know, we had some investigators. Actually, I think one of them was Chrissy, and they were investigating the cemetery after dark. This is another funny story, by the way. They were investigating the cemetery after dark, and they brought a dog whistle with them, and they used the dog whistle in the cemetery. Well, when they blew it, they definitely got responses, all right, but it was not paranormal responses. Next thing you know, you start hearing all these howls coming from the nearby woods. So here comes all these coyotes. So they immediately grabbed whatever they grabbed whatever they had, and they literally got the hell out of there.
That's funny.
That'd be something to try on the island.
Indoor piece of equipment.
I can just imagine.
I sincerely have to apologize. I actually need to head off. I am heading to an investigation tonight, and I'm running a tour. So I have to love you, lovely people, leave you. But
get some of that for your shoulder.
100%. Definitely will. Thank you. You must have heard me saying I'm really sore.
I did, yeah, I did.
Yeah. I've been doing gym again, and I'm not in the comfortable position to be walking around with a 5-kilogram gear case. You know, but no. In saying that, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Shane, if I could ask just real quick before you head out, where can people find you?
Everywhere.
So if you need to find him, he's on Paranormal Perth. He's also on Paracult Network and around Australia, pretty much.
You can find me outside of your window.
Whoa, I didn't know you could do that. That's awesome. I love that.
So yeah, I like that. It's cool.
But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Just look up Paracult. You'll probably find us. Our YouTube is where we do a majority of our film our investigations. They're pretty cool. I think they're pretty cool anyway. The thing about us, we're a bit different from other investigators. Like we really push ourselves to the absolute limits of what most investigators can do by putting ourselves in some really shitty situations. If you want, I don't know if I can do it on here, but I'm pretty sure I can do a share screen, and I can show you the trailer of what's coming up this Halloween for our next video.
Yeah, sure.
Great. Just as a quick teaser, I haven't released this to the public yet, so this is the first time that y'all be watching it.
Well, that's awesome.
So yeah, please follow Jason and his team. They're freaking amazing. They're one of the best. Yeah, they've just always supported Paranormal Perth. So
yeah, 100%. I don't know if that will pop up at all, but
yeah,
I don't know if that can. All right, you guys ready?
Go for it, mate.
Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah. What's
Yeah. I'm done. No way.
Are you hearing shit there too?
Yeah. Oh man, it just feels like I don't want to talk about it now. Thank you. Oh! I can't take you anywhere, Jay.
Help us. Something just touched me on my leg.
Let's try again.
Look at me.
Wow, that was amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, they're pretty good. So yeah, very looking forward to seeing new adventures ahead with Paracult and keep supporting them.
As you can see, we do some pretty scary shit.
Oh.
So yeah, that's what's coming out this Halloween.
Cool.
Can't wait.
I'll definitely be looking forward to that because I like to check that out for myself.
I'll send you a link to them.
All right. Well, y'all take care.
Yeah.
And
You too,
Good
mate.
investigation.
as always, stay prepared to be scared. That's our slogan.
Awesome.
But see
We'll
you guys.
definitely have you back on. We'll definitely have you
Thank you
back
for
on real
joining.
soon, Jade.
Yeah, 100%, man. Anytime you'd like. I'm sure Nikki will reach out to me. I'm sure she'll message me after the podcast is finished as well and just say, "What are you
Yeah.
saying about me?" Nah, but nah, it's been fun. This was my first podcast I've ever done, by the way, so it was good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's good we didn't scare you off then.
No. You guys are awesome people. You love
Oh,
us.
thank you. So you too. Have a great
See you
one,
guys.
mate.
Take care.
Take care.
All right,
You
take
too,
care,
mate.
Jade.
See you, mate. Yeah.
That was. Oh, he was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really, really good person. Yeah. Very supportive of everybody. So any events for you, Nick, coming up soon?
Not as of right now. See, surprisingly, I honestly I haven't really done as many investigations as I was hoping to do this year. And the fact, obviously, now that it's the fall season and we're already halfway through the month of October, there's not as much as I'd love to try to get at least maybe one small investigation, and it's very unlikely. So the chances are of trying to do an investigation for the rest of 2024 is unlikely. But if not, the good part is I got some new candidates that are interested in joining the crew, which it's not only just people with interest. I'm also trying to find more people because I'm not sure if I told you guys, but unfortunately I don't drive. So I'm also kind of looking for other means of transportation to go out. So if we don't get anything going on for the rest of this year, then definitely 2025 we'll get, because like I said, even though it's still even before Halloween, once we get to early to mid-November, at that point the season's going to be pretty much just about over then. So we'll have to wait then till like late March or early April before the paranormal investigating season really returns. Thanks, Lois. I'm glad you enjoyed watching this.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been
Gonna
awesome.
It's going to be early over there, like 6:21 a.m. over that way.
I was going to say I think it's about 6 a.m. over out in Scotland.
Yeah, because it's 3 hours ahead of us. That's how I judge hers, because I always have to go backwards 3 hours from when she says what time she has on to be our time here. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. She's straight on after you guys. That's correct. Yeah, they're over here. It's already past midnight. So, unfortunately, I mean, I told Nikki about this. Fortunately, I don't have to work tomorrow. So, if we were going to go late, it didn't matter to me. But what about you? You guys have anything coming up?
I have investigation in 2 weeks. It's disclosed location at the moment. Only the Afterlife Party and my team know. I've been trying to get this location for over a year and a half, so I'm very excited to do it. The guys from the Afterlife Party have helped me get this location because it's been really, really hard to get it. And then on the 9th of November, we are doing another location, Calaman Hotel. And then on the 7th of December, we're going down to Bustleton to do investigation. And then we're having like a little Christmas get together, and we're done for the year. And then we're back up running in February. And then we've got a lot going on. And then we have hopefully doing a collaboration with Nightwatch's Paranormal Australia and also Spirit Crew. And Paracult hopefully in 2025, and also the Afterlife Party. So we're doing a lot of collaborations with other teams as well. So that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
What about you, Robert?
Nothing really major at this point in time. I have, I guess I can tell you here, I do a lot of astral sort of stuff. I go out of body to different places, and I've actually been crossing over to where Anne and Renata are in Waverley, and yes, there are quite a few ghosts in there.
Yeah. No doubt.
And yeah, like when they were over in Ireland, and that I was watching over them as well. I'm basically their guardian angel. There was one case though when another couple of friends from, where are they? Southern Paranormal. They used to be Southern Paranormal. They've
Mhm.
disbanded now. They were over at the Monroe house, and they were in the
Yes.
basement, and they were just going on for a break. They were getting pizza delivered, and this thing down in the basement decided to attack one of the friends I have. So I stepped in, I jumped in basically, and grabbed this thing off of him because this thing had its hand on his heart, trying to squeeze it to stop it. So I jumped in and grabbed it off him and excavated it out of there. I think that was before they found the 2 dead bodies in the crawl space. So
Wow.
don't know what the hell this thing was, but I wasn't playing around.
Yeah.
Don't attack my friends.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing. I have heard through the spirit box type thing when I was there in Astral, Robert's here. So
Wow. That's incredible.
so that they know who I am and they know to not mess with me.
I was actually going to say maybe at some point soon, like whenever you guys are ready to have, have your next show, maybe sometime in the future we could try to get Anna Renata on as guest.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well, as I said, they're down at Waverley right now until 3 a.m. and
Right.
I think they're heading south from there. I'm not too sure of their schedule, but they are going to Salem, I hear.
Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure when in the 10 days, but
Yeah, because I saw in their post like when they arrived here in the U.S., they were down in Texas, so it looks like they're really traveling all over the country.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well,
One other thing I forgot to mention too that I'm considering about maybe doing sometime next year. Not necessarily just the investigations, but I actually had the idea of maybe trying to start getting my own vendor table at some of these Paracons that we have, and not necessarily. I mean, I still would like to try to sponsor, like have this sponsored by Things Network in some way, shape, or form, but I've always learned too that it doesn't hurt to, even if you have your own podcast, to advertise for it too.
Yeah.
But I also want, but in addition, because this other page has gotten a lot more success, as you guys know too, I have my scary stories presented in the dark page, and I've been trying to advertise it a lot more. Now, I haven't been able to do that recently because, as you guys know, I'm still fixing up a lot of the audio stories. But I'm really hoping once a lot of these stories are fixed up, then I could really start advertising. And, honestly, for something that's gotten a lot of success, like people who love listening to these stories, that could eventually make me probably a good candidate to show up at some of these Paracons and also horror film conventions, too, because they would probably love to have someone like myself show this up. And honestly, I haven't even told him about this yet. I was originally going to talk to Don and see if maybe we could create a banner to try to even advertise for beer fans.
Yeah, well, if you were going to do that sort of thing, take a putter with you, covered in blood, and just keep on shouting, "Bernie!"
You imagine we also said, "This is sponsored by this. This is also sponsored by the Steam game." Real quick, I just saw your message, Nikki. Let me just get to these last comments here. Spirits is very intelligent. We're actually going to be discussing tonight about Ghost to Ghost. It's going to be a very interesting subject matter. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. And Willow was wanting you to check your PMs or direct messages after this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, I don't know if first show starts like exactly at this time, but we should probably end this just to be on the safe side.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thank you, lovely people joining us on Things Network and Paranormal Perth. Thank you for joining our lovely paranormal chat and Oz, and hopefully to see you guys soon. And please stay tuned and follow us all over our social media. Also, just want to do a big shout out to thank you, Jaden from Paracult, for joining us this evening as one of our special guests. Hopefully, have you more in the future. Please support their YouTube channel, also mine, Paranormal Perth, and also Things Network and Robert's page. And have a good night. And as we always say, respect.
Mm-hmm.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Bye, guys.